Ship. This is a very special episode. I have my friend Duncan Bannatyne joining us. Now, if you don't know Duncan, Duncan is a Scottish entrepreneur, philanthropist, and author. His business interests include everything from hotels to spas, health clubs, media, property, and as some of you may know, TV. To our friends in the UK, he's probably most well known for his appearance as a judge and investor on Dragon's Den, the show that was basically the inspiration for Shark Tank in the US. During his time on the show, he invested over 36 businesses, and Duncan's even written 7 books. Anyone can do it. Wake up and change your life. How to be smart with your money. How to be smart with your time. 43 mistakes businesses make. 37 questions everyone in the business needs to answer, and riding the storm. So needless to say, he has just a few opinions about just a few subjects. Beyond all that, he's just an all-around incredible guy. I've got to know him over the last couple of years, and so I can vouch for this personally, but it's not just because I say so. He was even awarded the highly prestigious OBE, or for my American friends again, the Order of the British Empire Award for his contribution to charity. So, as an extraordinarily successful entrepreneur and advisor to countless other entrepreneurs, I think he's got some pretty sage-like wisdom to share. So, I think Duncan kind of prides himself on his ability to find his own destiny, which is why today's theme is going to be all about shaping your own success, even frankly in the most challenging environments, which is very much in the spirit of O Ship. So, with that, welcome to this week's episode. Duncan, welcome to Ship. How are you?
I'm good, Fred. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see your face. Where are you calling in from today?
My condo in Miami.
I
As you know, we stay here for a few months of the year.
wish I was there. It's good. It's ironic that you're in Miami and I finally left, but I need to get back down that way, so we've got more excuses to hang out.
You certainly do, yeah. We're missing you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. So, again, I've talked a little bit about your background at the intro of the show, but I'd love it'd be great if you could talk a little bit more about the Bannatyne Group and just so people have a sense of your business, a little bit more context.
So the Bannatyne Group is a limited company which has got 3 subsidiaries. And the subsidiaries operate 68 health clubs, 47 spas, and 4 hotels. And it was doing really well in 2019. And then the pandemic hit. And so we're at the moment continuing to be in survival mode, getting back out the damage done by the pandemic, the money we had to borrow, build up the membership again, build the confidence to be able to come back to spas, for example. And, looking forward to the future.
Yeah, I know that every time that the UK locked down, it was part of me definitely you were on my mind. I know that wasn't going to be fun for you. I think is it 2 years to the day since the first lockdown in the UK, if I remember correctly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's today. It's 2 years today. I remember that lockdown very well, but we all thought it was going to be a few weeks and then you'd reopen again. Nobody knew it was going to last as long as it did.
Yeah.
And we're terrified if it happened again because we borrowed so much money. There was 10 big health club operators in the UK, and 5 of them went into some sort of receivership. One of them never opened again, and the other 4 done deals and lost some of the business, and came out of it our end, but not as well as they went into it.
I think that's a perfect segue to the first area I'd like to jump into today. So. I've been very excited to have you on those ships. I really spent a lot of time thinking about, what I wanted to ask you about today. And as I kept going into researching you and your background, there was just so many good quotes that, frankly, I found attributed to you. And so I thought to myself, what if I asked Duncan to apply some of his own advice that he's given to other people back to himself? So, as an entrepreneur who's in hotels and spas and gym and obviously had quite a few challenges the last couple of years, I wanted to see how you felt about this quote that you once said, and I'm going to make sure I quote it accurately. All businesses face hurdles and obstacles. It's how we tackle them that shape our success. So, how do you think you've tackled your own challenges and obstacles over the last couple of years?
Over the last couple of years, I became quite obsessed with looking at my company's debt structure and every month to see how the debt was going up and how we'd handle it going forward. Because the business was closed, there was no employees working, and so I just had to look at that and then just work out how we're going to reduce that. And so it was a paper exercise,
Mm,
and just talking sometimes to some of the people that I worked with that worked in my company, seeing how they were doing, seeing how we were surviving. We had to let some people go, but most of them survived. We had about, I think we lost probably about 15% of our employees.
mm,
Closed 4 clubs out of 70. And we got through it. And it's just a matter of just every day just being more confident that, we're going to get through this.
mm,
And we did. And it was great to get through it. And there's a lot of people in much worse conditions
mm.
than we were suffering. So we couldn't feel sorry for ourselves. All we had to do was just do the calculations every month and see where we are.
15% actually is not nearly as bad as I would have projected for someone in your guys' space. So that's great.
Yeah.
Um, Out of interest, obviously the extraordinary circumstances over the last couple of years, bordering on feeling a little bit like a weird science fiction film sometimes. How has this been different from navigating some of the challenges maybe you've done at earlier parts of your career, which didn't involve a giant global pandemic?
Yeah. This was shocking. It was a shock to the system, but it was a slow revelation because, as I said, as we went into it, we thought, well, it will only last a few weeks. And of course, I said we're closing on was it 24th of March. I said we'll pay all the employees till the end of this month full wages, and then the next month, of course, we couldn't afford to do that. And then it started to reduce, and we were just paying furlough, and that was it. But you don't know at the beginning just what it's going to be like, and then it becomes. We also got stranded in the UK because we intended to come to America as we did every year, and Donald Trump had put restrictions on how many days you could be in Europe before you flew to America. And we were one day out, and we got stopped at the airport and sent back, and we were actually homeless. And we'd been staying at the Ritz Hotel, and they said, we can't take you back in because we're closing. So a friend, a very good friend of mine, a billionaire, John Caldwell, very kindly took us in and said, well, you can stay in my house in London because I'm not staying in it. And we stayed there and survived like that. But yeah, it was worse than build up a business. It was seeing your business being collapsed, and then you have to start again at some point, and you can't start again because you don't know when it's going to start again. We have this silly thing here where Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, and Wales all had different rules on when you could open and when you couldn't open. And people would say to me, "Why do we have to wear masks?" I said, "Well, we don't anymore. It's extended." Well, we do. We're in Wales. I said, well, yeah, talk to your Wales Prime Minister. It's not to do with me. Yeah, he's your control.
It's a really good point I didn't think about before. It's one thing when you've got a business. There's a clear start and end to some of the challenges, and you kind of go, okay, well, I know there's this something that's going to happen at some moment when I can start to think about how to rebuild. But it's almost like so people over on the show have heard me talk about before, where it's like stress and business challenges don't actually stress me out that much, but affairs of the heart I find really disturbing because there's no easy resolution, and I think when you haven't got an easy resolution to your business, when you're just in limbo, that's going to be insanely stressful. So.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good segue. Last week on OSHIP, we had a really great episode about kind of work life balance and mental well being and employee wellness and so on. Obviously, you're even in the business of wellness. How did you think about that kind of stuff for your employees? Did you do anything specific to try and address the stress that they were probably feeling? Not beyond even the stuff I know you were personally feeling, but your team.
There was very little we could do actually, except continue when we were doing press interviews
Hmm.
and talking about it. Continues to say we will open again, and we'll keep the majority of our employees. I did mentioned one day that I was going to have to close two clubs because of two loss-making clubs where I could
Mhm.
get out the leases. And of course, I had about
Mhm.
50 members from different clubs written. Oh, it's not our club.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did close those two clubs,
Yeah.
and I didn't reopen them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so the employees in those clubs, of course, and all the clubs were concerned it was their club that was getting closed,
Mhm.
and it wasn't. And so,
Yeah. I got one last question on this subject, then I want to move into some other areas. Again, hindsight's always 2020, but if you could have gone back 2 years, is there anything you would have done differently?
well, just before the pandemic, I got national, international, global pandemic insurance. I paid a
That's,
fortune for it.
I think that is solid advice. Yeah, I was like the random insurance. I'd be like, "You want global? No, I don't need global pandemic insurance. What the hell are you talking about?" I'd be like, "I would love global pandemic insurance. That sounds amazing."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's very
That's
expensive.
so funny.
Yeah, we were offered it once. It's very, very expensive, so we didn't take it up. So,
I didn't even know that would be such a thing, but again, I have a sneaking suspicion that it's even more expensive now.
yeah.
So I want to jump over to a slightly different subject, and flipping to kind of some of the more positive sides of things now. Um, whenever I've had an opportunity to get to know any really successful entrepreneurs or leaders over the years, I feel like when they reflect on their life and their career, they're able to look back and see a moment that it was like they felt like it was like that was the turning point. It may have been a certain business, it could have been a meeting, it could have been a deal, it could have been a life event, but it was like something they feel that they looked at that moment was a little bit of like where the flip started to happen, where like a
Yeah.
whole new life began. Do you have a moment like that in your life that you'd be willing to talk about?
A moment when the finances changed.
Yeah, or in the trajectory, it's almost like the trajectory of your whole career, kind of started
Yeah.
to change.
So I was selling ice cream about 1987. So we were 38 then, and I had a couple of terrace houses I bought. I was doing bed and breakfast, and then it came to me that you could open homes for the elderly, nursing homes for the elderly, and I went walking down the high street where my ice cream van was parked, and I saw this plot of land for sale. So I went in, and over the course of the next few months, I managed to buy this land and get permission to build a brand new home for the elderly. And as I looked at the figures and the people started to move into it, I thought, why am I driving an ice cream van in the evenings after doing this? And I sold the ice cream business, and that was it. My whole life had changed. I wasn't going to be selling ice cream all day. I had a little cafe, which I gave back to the council on council land, and started building up this nursing home business, which 5 years later, I floated down the stock exchange, and 5 years later,
Amazing.
sold it for 52 million. And I was
That's
an ice
amazing.
cream salesman just about 10 years before that sale.
Amazing. Amazing. And so it was the retirement home business that was kind of like the first one that really blew up for you.
Correct. Yes. Yes, it was. Yeah, that was the one. And when we sold that, I went down into different businesses because you've got a choice. You can pay 40% capital gains tax. And my take was my profit was 25 million, so that's 10 million pound capital gains tax. Or reinvest the money and you delay the tax. And so I thought, I'm going to start more businesses and delay some of this. I ended up delaying the whole lot. I put the whole 25 into new businesses. And so there was the health club business, the hotel business, children's day nursery business,
Yeah.
and a few little odds and sods that I invested in.
And
And yeah,
so, it's a quick, very, very serious question. Did your ice cream truck play the music that the ice cream trucks do? And if it did, does ice cream truck music haunt your dreams at night? Did you hear too much of it for those many years, or are you at peace with ice cream trucks at this point in your life?
I've got pieces of ice cream trucks at this point in my life.
That's awesome.
I don't think they're doing as well as what they did when I was doing it because people have got deep freezers now and you can go to the supermarket and you can buy a
Yeah.
box of ice cream, just ice creams in it, and things like that. So it's changed. The market
It's
has
funny.
changed.
People take that for granted. I think now it's just you forget that
Yeah.
it's just too easy to keep this stuff around. Um, so jumping down kind of my list of things I wanted to get in with you. So you once said that one of the great lessons was learning that the advice you don't want to hear is probably the advice you should listen to most. Can you share an instance where you got the advice you didn't want to hear, but it helped you the most?
Yeah, I think it was when I came to actually sell the homes for the elderly, which was part of my life for 10 years. I built it up. It was my business. It was great business, but I hated it because what you're doing is you're dealing with people who are coming in, and they're coming in the last stage of their life, and they're going to die.
Mm,
And so every week you're looking at the accounts and you're looking at the number of residents you have or patients you have, and you're redlining them out because they've died, they've passed away. And that was really a sad type of business to be in.
mm,
And so the advice I was given was to sell it. And I said, well, but it's my business. I love it. I said, no, sell it.
mm.
And I did. And I moved on, and I'm a completely different business now, a different environment, an environment that I love, the health club business, and it's fantastic. So yeah, that was the one.
I have to ask, was there like a correlation when you were thinking about this? So you went basically from business, you were obviously caring for people the last part of their life, but was there any kind of intentional thinking of going, okay, well, the reason I like the gyms is because I'm still caring for people, but maybe I'm helping them at their earlier part of their life? Like what made that jump from one to the other for you?
No, I just saw the need for
Yeah.
health clubs. I actually opened one before I sold the nursing home business. So the one in a separate company. And then that was it. It built up. The one did well. At least all my in actual fact, I had a bad break in my leg. It snapped the ligaments in 1992. And I was
Ouch.
sitting in the gym. I had to have a machine where I could work my leg out like this. I was sitting in the gym, working out my leg, and I was doing like 20 sessions and then another 20. So it's between sessions I was looking at. And I just worked out how big the gym was by counting the ceiling tiles. I thought, well, I knew how much revenue they had because I knew how many members they had, and I knew it was full. I knew what the members were paying because I was paying the same, and I knew what it would cost to build. I worked out what it cost to build, and I thought, it's a great return on money. I'm going to build one of these. And basically, that's why I did in 1997. I built the first one and opened it. It was that
I love
simple.
it. I love that
And
you were counting the ceiling tiles. This is
yeah,
gold.
yeah. You're there bored, because you got where your leg at. In between sessions,
If we're ever at dinner and I see if I think you're bored because you're looking all around, I'll know now that you're secretly calculating the square footage of the restaurant, trying to decide if it's a good business.
never bored when I'm there with you and Racky Freddie.
Thanks,
Never happens.
mate. So I love this idea. You're talking about how you had this inspiration to start this new business. So it's a perfect segue. So I have joked on many occasions on the show that being a serial entrepreneur is a little bit like a serial masochist, and bluntly, that's how I earned this, nifty haircut of mine. And as I was digging through all these great quotes that were attributed to you, I found this one I really enjoyed, and it said, "Starting a new business based on a good idea is hard enough, but starting with a bad idea, you'd have to be a masochist." So my question to you is, have all my ideas been bad ideas, or all jokes aside, basically, how do you decide if it's a business idea is a bad one? I mean, especially when you think about being even on Dragon's Den, I'm sure people are pitching you ideas all the time. Is it an intuitive process for you, or how do you go about deciding what's good or bad?
That quote must have been when I was on Dragon's Den and seen some bad businesses coming in,
I'm sure
and
you
uh,
did.
and there were a lot of them. And people invested a lot of their own money and a lot of their own time, and you felt sorry for them sometimes. They
Yeah,
were going
yeah.
to lose their houses because they invested millions of pounds in a business that was never going to work. And then they say, "Yeah, but what you guys say is you keep trying, keep going, but that's what we're doing." Yeah, but you've got a bad idea; it doesn't work. You know, so you've got to really work out the idea, and there's a lot of bad ideas, and they think nobody else is doing it, and they think that means it must be right for them to do it, but
There may be
maybe
a,
not.
maybe a reason why no one else is doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why they're not doing it because it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a lot more to it than that. I've got to really think it through and really test it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, it's funny. I never really thought about it before. How you're obviously a very math oriented guy. You're always running the numbers in your head. If you saw a business that maybe you weren't in love with, uh, for whatever the core of the business was, but it was a good business it was a good revenue generating business. Is that good business in your mind? So like, as long
Yeah,
as it makes money, you know what I mean?
yeah, if it makes money, but I would never be bogged down again the way I was with the nursing home business and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of industry that I didn't enjoy. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
no point. There's a stage in your life where there's no point making any more money unless you enjoy it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm running my
Agree.
life now. I love my life. I'm having a fantastic time. I'm so relaxed, and I'm in love with my wife. I'm in love with my life, my family, my children. Everything is just wonderful. I would never do anything that would come. And by the way, that's one of the reasons I left Dragons Den. A lot of people think, why did you leave? Different reasons been given. But the thing is, you're spending 26 days in a studio listening to other
Mm-hmm.
people, and you get traveling time back and forward and things like that. And I just thought, I'm getting too old to really let any of my time be wasted doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons I left. And you make sure that your time is well used as it
Yeah.
becomes. There's less and less left. The older we get, the less time we have left.
In fairness, I think you did a ton of seasons. I think everything no one wants to do the same thing forever, especially a guy who's got an inquisitive mind like you. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I have to ask. The show would not be called "Oh Ship" if I didn't ask for an "Oh Ship" story at some point. As a reminder, one of the things that "Oh Ship" is all about is talking to people who've had really great successful runs and saying, look, along the way, all the I think everyone slips, everyone has their misses. Maybe they have a moment where they think everything's gone horribly wrong,
Yeah.
and they were able to return back from that. Maybe that experience taught them a valuable life lesson. Maybe it inspired them or changed the way they are as a leader. Sometimes maybe it did none of those things, and it was just funny in hindsight, but maybe not so funny at the time. Do you
Yeah.
have kind of any O ship stories along the
Yeah.
way of your career
So,
that you can share?
yeah. I can tell you a funny story. At the time, before I sold the nursing home business in 1997, I'd also started another business called Just Learning, where we built and developed children's day nurseries for children under five and for
Yeah.
education. And I started building up in about 1999. I was approached by somebody who wanted to buy it. It was a real process of a bidding process, and eventually I sold it to the highest bidder, and the price is 22 million. But it was taken because of the London lawyers involved, and there's a venture capitalist was making the purchase. Actually, there's a lot of lawyers involved, and it's taken a long process. And in the meantime, I had some investors coming over from America to meet with me. They flew in Concorde. As it happens, they arrived the same day we were going to complete the sale of this Just Learning business, and it was just unavoidable. So I picked her up at the airport, and I took them to a little place called Yarm. I was taking them out for dinner, and I was going out for dinner. My lawyer's office is in Yarm. I said to him, I've got to take you for dinner. I've got to go over to my lawyer's office to conclude some work on the sale document. And this is okay. So I sat him down, ordered the food, went over to the lawyers, and they were texting me. And we completed what we thought was the documents. Then it goes back there to London. It goes through all these lawyers to come back. There's a misprint on page 6. It's got to be changed. They've got to do the whole 150 pages printed off again. So this went on and on and on. And I had a shop at Bentley. So I said to the guys, the investors, look, I've got to stay here. I'm going to get my driver, I'll take you into town, take you to a couple of clubs and then I'll see you tomorrow. And this is okay. So my Bentley went away with them. I said, look after them. So we concluded this sale at 1 o'clock the next morning. And my lawyer said, okay, finished now, it's done, the money will be in your bank in the morning. We came out and it's starting to rain. And I said to him, I've no car, can you drop me off? And he says, no, I'm going another way. And I couldn't get in touch with my driver. And so I'm stood there in the middle of Yam High Street. And so this lone little taxi coming through, and I waved him down. Oh, thank God, get in the car, take me home. So he's taking me home. And I'm talking to a couple of my friends on the phone, telling them how to done the deal, get 22 million.
Yeah.
And we get to my house, and I had a big impressive house at the time, so I press the button, the gates open, it drives up the driveway, we get to the front door, and it goes, oh shit, I left my wallet in the Bentley. Money. I can't pay the guy. So I go bang on the door. My wife's in bed sleeping. I said the television on in the bedroom, one of the two, and she couldn't hear me. And I took 15 minutes to wake her up. And she came downstairs and said, I need some money for that. She said, I have no money.
And this guy's been listening to you tell the story the whole way
Yeah.
too, probably.
And my wallet was in the Bentley. I had no credit cards. I said, I had to take her credit card, get back in the taxi, go to the nearest bank, get some cash out, and go back to her, and then pay the taxi out. But he started funny. He was laughing his head off. It was a funny story. She was going to tell everybody this story.
Yeah, it's one of those moments that kind of you're like you secretly blows all your street cred. It
Yeah.
always on some level reminds me of this one moment. I remember when I was growing up, and I basically had this moment. I was talking to this person, and I introduced myself. So I'm Freddie Laker. Nice to meet you. And the lady goes, oh, it's great to meet you. She goes, well, wow, like this is probably 15 years ago. So when Dad was more well known, and she goes, wow, like the Laker. And I said, yeah, I guess so. And she goes, God, I love your basketball team.
Jack, stop it.
A little squeeze the dogs out for a second. I was like, that was a good lesson in humility, and I think maybe Duncan got a good lesson in humility on that one. But Doug, I got more questions for you. I got to ask. In my career, I have bootstrapped. Actually, a couple of my businesses, most of my businesses were bootstrapped. For the people that don't know that expression, means basically did it with just pulling my bootstraps up and making it work with my own money without raising a bunch of investor money. I've raised VC money, venture capital money, and frankly, I've even mortgaged my house once when I needed some cash to support a business. So you once said, "An entrepreneur in debt is an entrepreneur in business." Can you tell our audience more about what that means to you?
Yeah, so I think I mean, I was building nursing homes at the time, and then building health clubs. So I had to borrow the money to build them. And the thing is, it's a bit like buying a house. You buy your first house. If you buy a house for say 100,000, and it goes up by 10% in value, you've made 10,000. But you've only actually put in 10,000 to this house. You borrowed 90,000 from the bank. You've almost doubled your money, your initial investment. So the more you borrow, the more if things go up and they go the right way, then the more you'll make. And business is a bit like that. The more you borrow to invest, you're borrowing the money from the bank at 3%, 4%, 5%. If you get a 15% return on your capital, then you're doing really, really well. And that was the basis of that, really.
Yeah. And so people, I guess the point is, I think people out there, where they could be great innovative people, they could be innovation people, great creative people, whatever type of business owner you're on there. Sounds like if you're not leveraging, frankly, borrowing money to your advantage to scale the business faster, then you're missing out. I'm actually not great at listening to this advice, and I think that's sound advice. You put more money if you got a really good business. Theoretically, if you put more money into it, you get more money out. And so I think some people are scared of being in debt, but I think your point is, hey, if the machine's really working, borrow the money because you're going to get higher interest rates, and especially some of the early rates are out there now, even if they're going up a bit. The theme of today's show, the outline in the intro, is shaping your own success. So this is something that I'm a big believer in. But you had a quote that says, "You have to make your own chances." Now, this is something that resonates with me personally. I don't believe in that my fate is determined. I know some people do, but I'd love for you to tell me more about what this really means to you.
Well, it's a bit like anything in life, really. If you want a good job, nobody is going to come and knock on your door and say, I've got a fantastic job for you. It's really highly paid. You don't have to do much work. You've got to go out and you've got to get that job. You've got to read adverts, you've got to apply to companies, you've got to get a job. In business, it's the same. You've got to start the business. You've got to go to the bank. You've got to convince them to give you the money. You've got to do research. You've got to do all them things. You've got to go out for it. You can't wait for it just to happen. I think the people who the most deluded are the ones who think. So he started a business. He was very lucky. He was in the right place at the right time. It's just not true. Everybody has some luck. But the more you push, the more you try, and the harder you go for things,
Mm-hmm.
then the more that luck will determine your success. It's as simple as that. And I think anybody can be successful. I mean, that's my original autobiography was anyone can do it. And I really believe that anyone can do it. And anyone can go out and start a big business, but they've got to go out and do it. And you see guys sometimes standing in the pub drinking and complaining about other people having wealth. They have no wealth, but they haven't gone out and done it. They've been in the pub all night. If you want to start a business, you haven't got time to go to the pub. You can start your
Mm-hmm.
business and make your business work
Mm-hmm.
and be working hard and dedicate your life to it.
And do you think what's your kind of take on so obviously people come from all kinds of social economic backgrounds and obviously have some people have more challenges than others, but do you think anyone can overcome that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously there's limitations,
Yeah.
you know, and some people suffer really bad medical situations, and that becomes harder. But just
Yeah, so
being poor,
extenuating circumstances aside,
yeah,
though,
yeah,
you should be able to do it. I
yeah,
do think there's some merit to this idea of like, look, I don't think you have to have a fancy degree, or maybe you need to be smart about what business you pick. You're maybe not going to go try and run a artificial intelligence software company if you haven't got the education for it. But I think you could pick a business category. And in my experience, the most of the success that I've seen, anyways, comes to working hard, being willing to work harder than other folks, um, and um, and just being finding a craft that you're really good at and executing it really well. And that could be as something as simple as being an incredibly good electrician, and just going out there and
yeah,
finding other really good electricians, and having good service, and or it could be cutting grass. I mean, you don't have to have any
yeah,
kind of formal education, I think, to go out there and build a good
yeah,
business if you're good with clients, if you're reliable, and you take your craft seriously. And I think that taking your craft seriously, I think, is the thing that most people really don't appreciate, because there are people out there that maybe in this world where if you are in a lower income bracket or whatever, I think sometimes you may not see the money in some of these businesses, but I think there are a lot of people in this world that will pay top dollar for people that are top of their craft, no matter what that craft is, even if it's cleaning houses.
yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah,
And I think people can build businesses in any of these paths. And I believe that too. Again, I think yeah, I think people don't appreciate this enough. What would you say to the people that are the work smarter, not harder crowd?
yeah. I mean, that is a good quote, but
Yeah,
I think it would be different circumstances. I mean, I had to work hard. And you can work smarter, but one of the ways you work smarter is you build the business up and you employ other people to do the things that you've been doing in that business, like looking after the accounts and things like that. And you have a good team of people that you trust, and so that's working smarter in a way.
maybe
But
maybe you have to work harder before you work smarter, if that makes sense.
well, I think you do, yeah. I mean, things have changed recently over the last say 10, 15 years because people are making absolute billions from ideas on the internet
Yeah,
and billions from companies that don't even make a profit.
yeah,
You know, I don't know if Tesla's making a profit yet, but it's a £1 trillion company, just about.
yeah, yeah,
I don't understand it, and I missed that boat by 20 or 30
yeah.
years.
Darn it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'd love to address today, I think is kind of wrapping up today. As I mentioned in the intro of the show, that you're always trying to make a difference in the world. I think it's one of the things that makes you more than just a brilliant entrepreneur. You're involved in a lot of different charities. I'd love to hear some of the areas that you're focused on, the charities you support, and then is there speaking to the audience, whether people are watching live or they're watching the show, the next several months. What are things maybe people could do to get involved or to support those charities?
Yeah, well, two of the favourite charities I have that I've known the people over the years who started the charities. I've been involved with them. I see where the money goes, and these two charities are Operation Smile. And I fund, before the pandemic, I funded each year for a few years a trip with them, a medical trip. And what we do is we go to countries where there's a need for people who require repairs to clefts. And sometimes clefts you can't see, sometimes it's inside, and it can be disastrous to try and eat with a cleft inside your mouth. And we will take volunteer. This is based on volunteer surgeons, volunteer nurses, volunteer anaesthetists who will come and they will operate on about 125 to 150 over 5 days, Monday to Friday, in
Wow.
hospital. And they're great operations. And the whole thing costs me to fund that about 125 to 150,000 pound for a trip. So that's
Wow.
£1,000 per operation. That's
Wow.
because they're all volunteers. So all I'm paying for is their travel and
Mhm.
their hotel bills and the food and drink and things like that. And they give their time gracefully because they are plastic surgeons, and plastic surgeons do make a lot of money. And they do say that, I make a lot of money and I want to give something back. And so I come here. Some have done about 50 trips.
Wow.
It's quite amazing. But I see that happening and I see how that works. And the founder was a plastic surgeon. Him and his wife worked very hard in the business and make it work. And yeah, it's great. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. And is that a, if people want to find that, just Google Operation Smile, or is it
Yeah,
operationsmile.com or something like that?
Operation Smile. Be operationsmile.com, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. And people, I can't imagine how hard it would be to have a cleft lip. So, what a a major change you're making in those people's lives.
Yeah, when you change the person, you don't just change the child's life, you change the whole family's life. Because sometimes a family have got three or four children, and three of them are normal, and the one who's got a cleft. And some of the African countries, the villagers won't let them out. They have to stay in the house, and you can't come out because you contaminate us all. And they have all these voodoo things and thoughts, which we try to educate them on, but that's not easy.
And just to be clear, it's operationsmile.org. For anyone who's listening through the live podcast, want to make sure that you can find the site there. And then, what's the other one, Duncan?
Charity is from a good friend of mine, Magnus, Magnus McFarrow, many years ago. And I met Magnus in Romania, and he'd opened, 2 years after the fall of Ceausescu, he'd opened a home for orphans who'd been abandoned. They were all HIV positive, all been abandoned by the parents. And they were treated pretty bad in the hospital. Owned an orphanage, who took 10 of the children into the hospital. Then he suggested to me that he could build another orphanage on the land. So I went to Romania with him, and I said I'd fund it, and we wanted it done quick. And so we met with the architects, the builders, and we built the place, and we got 10 more children in, and it's fantastic. Then over the course of the next couple of years, Magnus changed what he wanted to do. He said, I want to start a new charity, which is called Mary's Meals. And the concept is that they feed children in African countries, and the child will only come to the school, feed children in the school will only get fed if they come to school. So come to school all day, they learn, they're educated, and they get fed at lunchtime.
That's
And that's
smart.
it. And now it feeds 1,300,000 children all around the world in 26 or 27 different countries. The concept
Wow.
is amazing. Everywhere it goes to feed the children, they have partnerships with the local people, so the mothers will come and prepare the food and get the food ready and distribute the food to the children. And the children will bring their own plate or their own cup to get the food in. And it works amazing. It's an amazing charity. And, he should be a saint. Yeah, so I did fund that for part of that charity for a while. I haven't done since the pandemic, but I'm going to get started again and involved in
Yeah.
that. It's amazing.
Uh,
Fantastic.
and that's at marysmeals.org. I'm actually going to go check out both of those right after the show, and hopefully they've got some easy ways to contribute or donate. So that's awesome. Again, I think it's wonderful when people get to have great success. I think it's even more wonderful when people who have great success find ways to make sure that other people are successful. So,
Yeah.
um, Doug, I think that's a great, inspiring place to end today's show. Thank you so much for finding the time to chat with us. This was great. I really enjoyed digging into some of those subjects with you. I'm sure the audience really enjoyed it as well. Um, and for those of you who've been watching live, thank you for chiming in. For those of you who are watching the show, whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or any of the other platforms we're now streaming on, and also our audio only show across major podcasting platforms. Thank you again for subscribing. The best thing you can do to support the show, and frankly also get the word out about some of those great charities that Duncan supports, is share this episode on your social feeds. Give it a subscribe or give us a like. So thank you again, Duncan. You're the best. I really, really appreciate
Thank you,
you
Freddie. Nice
on our
chatting to
show
you.
today. And thanks everyone again for watching. I'll see you next week on Oh Ship.
Thank you. Bye bye.